Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Nine Sim, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So, you all already know how hard Black women have fought for so many people, or Black people in general have fought for so many people. They've always been the one trying to make peace, keep peace, and make sure that there is unity among every other person. They have also fought hand in hand and with other people to make sure that they get so many things right and all that. But it looks like after fighting and all that, some kind of people take away their praises and keep it to themselves and like act like they were the ones that fought for it and the rest of it. So she was like, your unity card has been revoked. And this one is also talking about white women having to stop using the construction and allyship as a currency to get praise and community from those who have been those that have been marginalized, by them, right? And you all already know, how hard Black women they've really fought for democracy and still fighting, because most of the things happening they affect them, but not as bad as it affect people that look like me. Like, we are always at the receiving end. That's why each time there is election or something, we try as much as we can to make sure that we vote for the right person, right? But it looks like after fighting for democracy or fighting for everything, a particular people will take the praises and say that it's all their fault and all that. But you know what? One thing that I have told you all this period is that nobody is, especially Black women, are not fighting for any democracy. Let's get into this video.
Let me just get one thing straight. When you, and you'll know who you are in just a second, when you come into my comment section and you find a man saying that women should be grateful for everything that men have done for them in the past, or it's a man talking about why don't other men get it, and like he very clearly like wants a pat on the back, and you go into my comment section, you find these men and you dress them down, you say it's systemic, it's patriarchal, it's, if you think you getting it is enough, then you clearly don't see the whole problem at hand. All men need to get it. All men need to understand. It's all men until it's none of the men. You say shit like that when I talk about the systemic oppression of women. But then you go ahead and have the nerve to show up into a Black woman's comments talking about you should be grateful for everything that white women have done for you is crazy, is absolutely nuts and insane to me. Talking about you're tired of the stereotypes, and you basically express some version of the when will it be enough sentiment when it comes to white women. Until it's none of the white women is the answer. Until it's none of us, it's all of us. Same exact thing. The same exact thing that you would say to a man is the same exact thing that applies to you as a white woman in the context of you trying to find or preserve some sort of unity that you have with Black women. Because the truth is, any unity that any of us have with Black women comes at their expense, because it's not none of us yet. The same thing that we tell men too. It's until all of you start acting right, I have to assume that most of you are not acting right. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. When it comes to you and a Black woman says the same thing to you, you don't want to look at the hundreds of years of systemic oppression that happened to them, huh? You want to have your cake and eat it too. That's what sucks. That's why Black women don't like white women. And that's okay. That's okay. The same thing as me saying this is why women don't like men. The same way that you wouldn't be offended at that, you shouldn't be offended at me saying this is why Black women don't like white women. Until it's none of us, it's gonna be all of us. And they have to assume that for their own safety. Because as soon as y'all do one nice thing, as soon as white women don't fuck something up for Black women, it's immediately, well, aren't you gonna say thank you? Aren't you gonna pat me on the head? Aren't you gonna talk about how great I am? What the fuck is wrong with you? How would you want a man to act? Even if he said the right thing, would you want him to go around like disagreeing with women who talk about how it's all men because it's not him? Doesn't that in a way make him even worse? Like, wouldn't you say that in a way it makes him a little worse? Because he's aware, but only aware enough to want to be absolved of the guilt and the stereotypes. Then what you're not aware enough of is what Black women have gone through in this country. Then you need to go back and you need to literally re-educate yourself. Because for you to be so well-versed in women's issues and well-versed enough to come and dress down men in my comments, but you're not mature enough to realize that you shouldn't go around looking for a pat on the back from Black women every time you do the bare fucking minimum and show up online or fundraise money or complain about Black women not being grateful enough, because you have to realize you're not doing this for Black women. You're doing this for yourself. Don't be stupid. If you don't do this, things are gonna get worse for you, okay? That is why Kamala has to win. She has to. But you as a white woman helping her win, you're not doing that for Black women. You are doing that for your daughters. You're doing that for yourself. That's why you're doing it. You're not doing anybody a fucking favor but yourself. You need to realize that first and foremost. How do you not see when you say these extreme things to men and you want them to understand, instead of getting like ashamed and just freaking out, trying to tell you that you should just be grateful for what you have. That is how it feels when Black women tell you, hey, something's wrong. And you go, why can't you just be grateful for what you have? That unity, by the way, that you claim to have with Black women is in that moment evaporated. Just like that. Because just like that, you've othered yourself and you've exposed where you think you live in the hierarchy and where you think your rightful place is, because you're telling somebody to be grateful for something as if you're the one handing it out and they're the one standing there with their hand out. You are fucking crazy. They're trying to help you. Please don't be stupid. I'm literally begging you. And I hope you know that if you're a white woman who does this kind of shit, you're the reason why meaningful change is not happening. You're the reason that Black women can't trust white women as a whole. Because you take credit for things that you didn't do, but you want people that are talking directly to you to be grateful for those things that you didn't do, that you didn't lift a finger to do. They'll say, well, what about when white women did this? And you're not even one of those white women. Again, in the same way that so many men talk about we built the world, and yet they weren't one of those men that built the world. Why do you want me to be grateful to you? And it's the same exact thing. Like, why the fuck would a Black woman be grateful to you for money that another woman donated? Just to drive this point home, whenever you say shit like that, you show your whole ass. You show that you think you are elsewhere in the subcategories of the hierarchy that we all are forced to participate in. You show exactly where you think you stand, and not in a good way. Come on, it's really easy. It's good to recognize, like in a situation where it matters, that you may have more social power and that you may be able to actually act on it and do something, okay? That's always good for you to know that and to keep that in mind. But it's not good for you to use that rank as a way to not only disunite yourself from Black women, but also as a way of saying, by being part of this class of people, I have by default been helpful to you in these instances. You also don't acknowledge the instances where white women haven't been helpful. You know what I mean? Like, again, in the same way as, yes, it's men who built the whole world, but they are also the only ones that ever subjugated women. White women have done things that have technically, like, helped Black women, mostly out of spite for men, mostly out of spite for their own oppressors, because they didn't have another choice. When you say that, but you don't talk about all the ways in which white women have harmed Black women by, like, voting for Trump and by only caring about their own issues and by using their hierarchical status to avoid accountability to Black women, to run to the white men and say, oh, a Black woman is bullying me. Please protect me, kind sir. It's like you only turn on your oppressors when it directly benefits you, and you only want to acknowledge the people that you oppress in terms of how you've benefited them. That's not fair, because you haven't really benefited them at all. You've only benefited yourself. You've actually been very careful not to benefit Black women any more than they could ever possibly need to. Do you know what I mean? I've really gone out of their way to make sure that Black women's issues don't get onto ballots, don't get into the conversation, because they don't matter to you. You think that once your issues are solved, everybody else's issues will be automatically solved, which isn't true. And that's dangerous. That's what makes you dangerous to Black women. And the more that you don't get this, the more that you are just like intentionally dense about it, the less helpful you are. And the more tired everybody is, frankly. This is exactly why this country stays a hellhole. This is exactly why. Precisely because of the racial divide. And that's really the key that the overlords have. And every time they need things to get a little bit worse, they just turn that key a little bit. And white women get straight to work. They're instrumental in this. Because as soon as they're called out, as soon as they're called on for help, it's always like, oh my gosh, what haven't we done yet? And when will it be enough? And oh my gosh, like, can't you see we're the good guys? If you're the good guys, act like the good guys. And nobody's gonna have a fucking problem with you. And nobody's gonna say anything to you. Just one last quick reminder to the intentionally dense of us. What you are doing for Kamala Harris, you are not doing for Black women. You have no right to throw it in their face. Especially if you want to keep playing the unity card and the aren't we all women card, you especially should not separate yourself out from the Black women now. The unity card will be taken away from you. If you right now position yourself against Black women as if what they're asking you to do, they're not asking you to do for your own better future. That's where y'all are really losing the fucking plot. And this is how we all know that racism is alive and well in America, because it keeps women from uniting. Because when the women that have the scope, the vision of what needs to change in order to make this a fair and equitable country speak up, it's other women that pipe up to shut them the fuck down. And it's white women. And that's how you know it's alive and well, because you cannot hear what Black women are actually saying and how much it's actually going to benefit you over the sound of your own racism. Again, if anyone is dividing women, it's you. It's you, because you're the one that's not listening to other women, and you're the one shutting other women down. The only difference between y'all is they're Black. So you tell me who is dividing women and who's the racist. Okay, because if you cannot handle black women saying that white women need to do more, then clearly you value your own race more than the problems that other women are trying to tell you about. When there are other women talking about problems that you could help solve, that you could do more to fix. But you're like, no, it's more important for me to be an innocent white woman than for me to be a woman alongside other women that are fighting for my causes. A lot of times without even receiving the rewards that I receive after they're done fighting for me, for my rights. Those are women. Those are women. And you ignoring them when they speak out about racial injustice is you abandoning them as a woman. And you're choosing your skin color over the unity of women, not them. Because if it really was about all women and what can we really do to unite, you would care about these issues as if they were your own. That's what standing on the side of all women looks like, and not on the side of your own race. So please think about which is it that you're actually doing. I hope this helps.
I don't see many black and brown folks running around in a cult. I just don't. But I see a shitload of white people running around in a cult. Cult called the Trump MAGA cult. Why is that? Why are so many white people involved in a cult? Following a criminal clown. Why? A goofy ass, uneducated, ignorant motherfucker, a soulless human being, a fucking psychopath who only sees his own value and nobody else's. Why have so many white people joined this cult? One reason: the love of power, the love of control, and the love of wanting to steal resources. That's what colonizers do. White people, our culture is colonizing. White supremacy, white nationalism, Christianity, all that is based upon colonizing. That is the reason why there is a Trump cult MAGA existence today. That's why we're in this state, this climate of crazy political bullshit. It's ridiculous, it's weird, and it's funny, and it's laughable. The fucking things that comes out of Trump's mouth, the amount of lies, the corruption, the inhumanity, it's insanity. But guess what? White supremacy is insanity. That belief system, that narrative, that ideology, and it's cultural, and it is ingrained in America, and it is America's biggest problem. Yes, it is our biggest problem. Trump and his MAGA cult are the prime example of everything that's wrong with this country. And until we fix white supremacy, this country will never know peace. And it's also our most neglected sin. The white man has never dealt with his own goddamn immorality of greed and need for power. That white nationalist colonizer that is taught to every single white person in America. Till we fix that, we will never have peace, folks. And what white people have never understood, it hurts us more than anybody else. It fucks us. It robs us of dignity. It robs us of humanity. And I apologize for my voice, I got COVID, but I think I'm getting better.
If you're a white woman who's doing anything in activist circles, you have to expect that black people and people of color are going to regard you with suspicion. You also have to make peace with it and not cry about it. A lot of women have no problem talking about how we regard all men with suspicion because of the high level of domination, coercion, abuse, and other dangerous behaviors that men as a whole are conditioned into. We make the argument that you never know which person is going to be the person that's a predator, so you have to treat everybody like a predator until proven otherwise. And then a lot of white women get really offended when that same reality is put onto us from black people and people of color. We don't see ourselves as the oppressor because we identify with the oppressed status of being women, and we have this logical fallacy that because we can identify with one marginalized and oppressed group in society, we can identify with them all. This is where intersectionality becomes really important, which is where a lot of white women especially drop out of the conversation. But the oppression that a person who is black and also a woman is going to experience is very different than the kind of oppression that a white woman will experience. And while they're both experiencing oppression and they can communicate from the language of oppression to a degree, it's completely disingenuous and dismissive for a white woman to not listen to the unique forms of oppression and systemic marginalization that people of color and Black people experience. When I show up to conversations, I know that I've done a lot of work. But people who meet me and see my white womanness are not going to know any of these things. And even if they did, those things don't meet the bar of making me a safe person for them. I have to demonstrate my safety with the behaviors that I choose and the conversations that I have. And I have to continually demonstrate that safety because it's completely fair for a person who is marginalized below me and by people of my social group to not regard me with safety until they have seen me demonstrate safety continuously over a long enough period of time that they can let their guard down. I have to be available to be called in. I have to be available for conversations. This doesn't mean that I have to accept mistreatment, but it does mean that I can't experience guarded behavior as mistreatment because guarded behavior is not the same as treating me badly. This means that I can't inject the things that I know that I have done to deconstruct into conversations with people who aren't asking those questions. Because if I show up trying to prove myself in that way, I'm centering myself and I'm making the conversation about how good of an ally I am. And it doesn't matter how much work I do on myself, there are still going to be people in the Black community and communities of color that are not going to trust me no matter what. Their not being able to trust me is a reflection of how poorly they've been treated by people who look like me. I have to do that work regardless of who pays attention or who trusts me. Because if I make my deconstruction conditional upon being accepted into the communities I'm deconstructing around, I'm still centering myself. So if you're a white woman working on deconstruction from white supremacy and colonization, it is really important for you to also internalize these beliefs. The bare minimum is deconstructing to a place where we are sitting at equal ground as much as possible. We don't get cookies for that. If you're
So this is all I got from this video, and I am going to say that the truth is that I don't think Black women are expecting a lot, from women anymore, because we all can actually see what has been going on and how things has been so far and how they do not come out to probably support Black women or fight with Black women, except when it's all in their favor. But if it's something that it's going to favor Black people, it is a no, they don't come out. So we've been Black women, our Black people in general, but I've specifically Black women have always been at the forefront, fighting not just for only people, but all races, right from the history, you can also see how far on how the people they helped fought with, right? Till this very moment, it's always like, other people are very selfish in the sense that Black women or Black people are going to come all out for them. But when it is time for them to come out and help Black people speak up or assist Black people, there will be nowhere to be found. So, and they still expect us to keep coming up for them, thinking that we will never learn or we probably will never care and all that. Probably before Black women or Black people do not care, but right now they care so much. If you are in their space, they are definitely going to be in your space. But if you are not in their space, I am sorry, they will not be in your space. And like the whole thing has been going on, I see a lot of people running around trying to know how they could save or how they can save democracy, because the whole election thing is around the corner and things aren't so straight up, right? Both parties have their, how do I say that? I don't know how to say that, but you all already understand where I'm coming from. People have their opinions, which I respect, right? But I feel like they know that a particular person is probably not good for them or good for us or good for Black people, right? But that is not the problem. The problem is that they definitely may vote against their own interest and then come back eventually to tell Black people that, we're sorry over this, over that. The truth is that I am not sure Black women are ready for all this. If you mess up, we stay in that mess as long as it's going to last. That has always been the agreement so far. You all can, if you all want to join the fight or if you all want to support and be all out, you all really have to be all out. because in the end, you see them screaming, they are not being invited. I mean, you all have been invited to the table to know what to do, to think things out and all that. You all are not saying anything or trying to be helpful or trying to, like, say we are here or we not. You guys are not either here or there nor there, So, but in the end, what I am saying is that nobody is saving anybody this time around. We are all going to Black women, and you all are going to be in the same mess for as long as it's going to last, because it has always been you people, like, you all are going to mess up and say that you are the victims or you are or the person when you are the ones that did what it's like, you that put yourself in that position. So yeah, I absolutely respect what they said, and a very big shout out to all of them, and thank you all so much for all the love and support, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.